And welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Peter Winick, and I am launching our new podcast today. Our new podcast is Leveraging Thought Leadership with me, Peter Winick, the founder and CEO of Thought Leadership Leverage. And it is an honor and a privilege to have with me today Chester Elton as our very first guest on our very first podcast. Welcome, Chester.
Thanks for the invite.
Great. Let me just give everybody Chester's bio here because I want them to know who we're talking to. So Chester Elton has spent 2 decades helping clients engage their employees to execute on strategy, vision, and values. In his provocative, inspiring, and always entertaining talks, #1 best-selling leadership author Chester Elton provides real solutions to leaders looking to manage change, drive innovation, and lead a multi-generational workforce. He is a co-author of the New York Times and #1 USA Today and Wall Street Journal best-selling leadership books, All In, The Carrot Principle, and The Best Team Wins, which is launching this week, I think today, actually. Elton is also the co-founder of The Culture Works, a global training company, and he's a board member of Camp Coral, a nonprofit for the children of wounded and fallen military heroes. He was recently named to the 30 Global's Guru list as number 13 in leadership and number 5 in organizational culture. He serves as a leadership consultant to such firms as American Express, AT&T, Avis Budget Group, and Procter & Gamble. He is most proud, however, to be the father of 4 exceptional children, more exceptional now that they've grown and left home. So welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad to have you here, Chester.
Yeah, no, it's great. We've been friends for a long time, and I think this is a great idea. So I'm honored to be a part of your thought leadership group.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So the theme of our show is not really about any specific content, but my audience are people like you, Chester. So what I'm trying to talk about in the conversation that I want to have with folks is what they're doing to leverage their content and leverage their thought leadership. So let me just sort of open with that because you're doing all sorts of cool and interesting things. Obviously, the book is interesting and speaking is interesting. But talk to me a little bit about the things that you're doing to leverage and scale your content so it can reach more folks.
Yeah, it is fun, and I think you just always got to be aware of where you are and who's in the room and how you can build those relationships. You mentioned we've got a new book, The Best Team Wins, and we've been launching that. It actually went live on the 13th on Amazon. And so we've got a lot of opportunities to do some press. Well, I think being aware in the situations, who's in the room. I did this wonderful interview with Cheddar TV, which is something I'd never heard of before, but all my kids knew about it. It's the subscription news stream specifically for millennials. Right. And while I'm there, they had on the set Jason Pfeiffer, who's the editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur Magazine and Entrepreneur Media. Well, we had so much fun on the set that we decided to go for a quick coffee afterwards and chat about a few things. And, I mentioned to him some of the other things we've been doing. We did some quick hits for CBS Radio for the business thing in New York and so on. He says, well, we've got Entrepreneur Radio that we do. And so this, in fact, last night, Sunday night, we did an hour-long thing on Entrepreneur Radio about the book and about teams and so on. So that was a connection. I mentioned to the host, Alan Taylor, who's such a character, that it would be fun to be a regular on his show with the good news in business and talking about the organizations that I get to speak to and learn from. Not, your news feed is so profoundly negative. I don't know if you've noticed that, but about 90% of what you get through your phone is negative. So I was saying, hey, why don't we do a positive bet for 2 or 3 minutes every week? And he caught into that. So the message in a roundabout way is, keep networking with your people because you've got more content than you think. Whether it's a quick hit on Cheddar TV or an interview on Entrepreneur Radio or becoming a regular on someone's show. Adrian and I are going to start doing quarterly classes and whatnot for the American Management Association. Again, just another way to get your content out there, build your reputation, and get noticed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that. So Cheddar TV, which may have been something that you or I knew about or not, is a place where potential folks can reach you. And it really doesn't matter if it's something that you would prefer, right? So you have to be open-minded and say, where can I reach people? Where are they in formats and modalities and channels and media that might not be familiar to me? And I think there's an it's constantly learning and trying things out there that are different. So I love that concept. I also obviously love, 3 minutes of something positive a week would be refreshing in the world that we live in. A little contrarian there. So
Yeah, no kidding. It's interesting. I learned this years ago from Marshall Goldsmith. We were at a conference together and he was launching one of his books, and he invited my wife Heidi and I to New York for his book launch. And at the time we were writing another book. I can't remember which one it was. It may have been The Carrot Principle or The Orange Revolution. Anyway, I asked Marshall, I said, "Hey, would you be so kind as to maybe do a blurb for the back of the book?" He said, "Oh, listen, happy. Do you want me to write the foreword?" He went over and above. And I said, "God, that is just so gracious." And he said this to me, and it really stuck with me. He said, "Chester, there's two ways to view the world when you do what you and I do. And one is that everybody in the room is a competitor. And the other view is, what can I do to help everybody in the room so we have a tide that raises all ships?" And he says, "I'm of the latter." He says, "I say yes to pretty much everything, and you should too." And it's really interesting because to that point, I really had been part of the former, where you'd go to a conference and you wanted to be the number one rated speaker and you wanted your book to be on the bestseller list to the detriment of other people. And the more I talked to Marshall, the more I thought, that's just silly. So I've really adapted his philosophy, and I'm actually now part of his 100 coaches group, where we really do look to see how can we promote each other and promote goodness. And you know what? It's made all the difference.
No, and it's the right mindset. I mean, I think there's for content people and authors and speakers, it's not a Coke and Pepsi world, right? If the more you can get out of your friends and your colleagues and folks that you may have thought of as competitors in the previous sort of mindset shift, the better it is for everybody, right? Because Marshall's awesome, your stuff is fantastic, but it doesn't mean that because somebody buys triggers, they're not going to be engaged with your work, because they clearly would be, right? So
exactly.
yeah.
And to that end, I was just recently in India, and the guys promoting the conference said, "Hey, there's this web guy, and he's really a great guy. Would you do a couple of segments with him?" I go, "Sure." How many people does he reach? He goes, "Oh, we're not really sure." I said, "Oh, okay." But you know what? I'm in India. What would I be doing anyway? So why not? And he turned out to be a charming guy and a lot of fun. And again, a little more content you can throw on LinkedIn, you can throw on Facebook,
Sure,
and help somebody out. Why not?
I love it. So let me drill down to the business side of content, the business side of leveraging your thought leadership, right? So right now, if I was a target client, and I'm going to ask you what that means in a moment, what are the ways that you would allow me as your organization to give you money, book, speaking, etc.? So first tell me who the ideal client is, and then tell me how you've made it easy for me to buy Chester and obviously Adrian in as many flavors, formats, and modalities as many price points as are logical.
Sure. Well, obviously, we take payment in every form, even, non-sequential 20s in a brown paper sack at a diner in New Jersey. We've got a philosophy in our business. We've never met a check we didn't cash,
Exactly.
I'll tell you, we do it in a lot of different ways. With our consulting and training company, The Culture Works, we've actually got little bits and pieces we sell online. You can buy a certification online. You can take some of our motivators courses online. You can even buy a singular motivator assessment for $40 online. So that's the stuff that we promote, and that trickles in. Normally, where it starts for us is with the speaking. That's the tip of the spear for us.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you're a mid-sized, company or Fortune 50, we get invited to speak at conferences for companies' leadership or for associations. And associations are a rich place to work as well, because now you're reaching 100 companies, in your 60 minutes that you're up there. And we've been really good about, again, sort of that ripple effect of the Goldsmith philosophy. When we get booked to speak at a conference, there's always one or two pre-conference calls. And we're always very good about saying, "Hey, would you like to take the motivators assessment?" And you know what? We certify in our training. So as part of our package, we would love for you to give us two people in your training department. Maybe it's HR, maybe it's organizational development, and let us certify them for free. Well, we sell those for $1,500 to $2,000. And you might say, "Well, That's a big giveaway. Well, it's sort of the razor and the blade. I'll give you the razor so that you'll buy the blades. And you look at this at HP, right?
Yeah.
I'll give you the printer, but you got to buy the ink, right?
So let me ask you a question there, because part of what you answered that with is product, but the other part, which is a touch more intriguing to me, is process. Because what I see from my vantage point, working with dozens and hundreds of authors and speakers and thought leaders from around the world, is many speakers are transactional. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but the speaking business, the way it is set up is, client calls you, can you be in Scottsdale on May the 5th? Yes, my fee is. Great, thank you. See you, standing ovation, go home. But part of your process during the pre-speaking phase, when they're most receptive and most attentive to you because they want to give you everything that you need to be successful on site, is you're giving them wider view into the suite of solutions that you have. You're being generous by giving some of that away. But talk to me about that process of when to introduce what, because I love what you're doing early on there.
Yeah, no, and you're spot on, and we've learned this over years and years, right? Where you can have a wonderful speaking engagement that leads to a $50,000, $100,000 training engagement, and it's because they're so engaged. And what we always do is we go above and beyond, and we do little things. For example, I'll say, hey, the conference is still 2 months away. If you'd like, I'm happy to shoot a 1 or 2 minute video that says, hey, my name is Chester Elton, best-selling author, delighted to be with you in Scottsdale. We're going to be talking about changing your culture with All In, our best-selling book. We're going to talk about this. Excited to see you there. Ba-doom, out. And they'll go, gosh, you'll do that for us? Well, it takes you 5 minutes to shoot it on your iPhone, right? And send it to them. And then and by the way, as a follow-up, to sort of extend the experience, why don't we shoot another quick video? Say, man, it was so much fun being with you guys in Scottsdale. We talked about this, and this. Connect with me on LinkedIn if you've got any questions. Let's keep the conversation going. And we talk about the follow up. I said, by the way, you've had 150 of your top leaders. If you'd like, we can get you a great price on 150 books that we'll send out to you. And after we speak, why don't we do a book signing? Well, like you say, so many times it's you're in, you're out. It's a wham, bam, thank you, man, kind of transaction. If you can extend that and build a relationship, a pre or post video, a good price on 100 books. Let me get some of your people certified. Let's do some follow-up. That is more than I would say 90% of speakers do. And now you've got a relationship, you've got product in your hands, they've got some of your training in their hands, and it leads to a longer relationship, sometimes multiple engagements to speak, but certainly multiple opportunities to train. And boy, does it work well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So let's talk about sort of the product mix. So there's a spirit of generosity, and then you have the systems and processes built in. This isn't by accident. Because I don't think clients are going to stay up late at night trying to figure out how to buy more from Chester and Adrian, right? That's your job. That's your burden.
Right.
So you've got the book, you've got speaking, you've got assessment tools, you've got certification. What are the other things, the other formats, modalities, and who they're reaching in an organization? Because people talk about organizations and, American Express, for example, they have everything but from frontline call center folks to SVPs of global marketing that are doing some amazing things. It's a very diverse organization, which isn't unusual in terms of skill sets and where they sit. So speak to that a little bit. What do you have a little bit for everybody?
Yeah, and that whole thing is just keep working your network, right? Introduction to introduction. It's the classic old sales thing. Hey, we've had a great experience with you in doing this workshop or this keynote. Is there anybody else in your organization you think would enjoy this kind of message or needs this kind of message? And would you be so kind as to introduce us? I mean, it's really that simple. Now, on the training side, we've got our sales guys and marketing guys, and we make that handoff very easy. Say, listen, I'm gonna introduce you to Lance Garvin, and Lance is going to be the guy that's going to set up your certification. He's going to set up your training, and you're going to love him. It's that transfer of expertise. I'm your guru. I'm your thought leader. Let me introduce you to my thought leaders that are going to help you take you through the next steps. So that's the process. Yep.
And that's a key sort of separation between church and state. You are the expert, you're the speaker, but you're not going to be personally negotiating fees and coming up with organizational solutions and that sort of things. You've got folks on staff that will help the client navigate those waters with you.
Exactly right. And I always joke about it when that happens too. I said, listen, I'm going to introduce you to Christy, who's going to, set up all the speaking. I'm going to introduce you to Lance for all the training, because they're the guys that actually keep us in business. If you ask me, I do everything for free. So I've got to get off the phone.
That's great. So you've been at this for quite some time. You've had a dozen books. How many books have you written so far?
Yeah, this The Best Team Wins is our 11th book together with me and Adrian, and we've had a lot of success. We've been really blessed.
So tell me, in our last couple of minutes here, talk to Chester 15, 20 years ago when you didn't have 11 books under your belt and you weren't the Chester Elton that we know today, but you're somebody smart, somebody passionate, somebody that's got a perspective and a point of view that's trying to make the world a better place, get their content out there, and obviously make some money in the process. What would you tell them? What would you advise them?
Yeah, just be really true to your cause. I love the way you put that, make the world a better place. I started off in sales, and I actually wanted to get into writing and so on, to be a thought leader, to make it easier to sell people stuff. It was very selfish. Then you start getting into it and you realize that there are a lot of really good people out there trying to do the right thing every day and make the world a better place. And the more you help facilitate that, the better off you're going to be. You mentioned in my bio, Camp Corral, and it's part of Golden Corral, the best buffet in the USA. I've spoken at their leadership conferences a couple of times and got to know Lance Trineri, who's their CEO. And I was just so moved by the work they do for military families and their kids. This whole thing is they have 23 camps around the country, and they pay 100% of the cost to get military kids to a camp for the summer just to be kids. Because, military families, they deal with a lot of stuff that you and I never have to deal with. And it was their way at Golden Corral to give back. Well, we developed such a nice relationship. He said, would you give us some of your time and be on our advisory board? And I thought, gosh, I've never done that before. How much time is it? How much is involved? Then you step back and say, it's for military families' kids. How can you not say yes? Right? And we've had such wonderful, experiences. I've been to the camps a couple of times. We've brought other people in to help support them and write some checks. Well, when everything's said and done, it's the old Stephen Covey thing. When people show up to my funeral, I hope there's a few people that say, man, I heard him speak and he was amazing. But I'd rather they say, wasn't it amazing what he did for those military families? Wasn't he a good father? Wasn't he a good member of the community? And all of that is part of your brand. And when that goodness comes through, the business part takes care of itself. At least that's the way I've approached it. And, so far, so good.
What a wonderful philosophy. Give me just 2 or 3 sort of pitfalls and things to watch out for as an aspiring thought leader, as a growing thought leader. What are the things that I should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, we've sort of talked about all the unicorns and rainbows, right? And I'm a very trusting person by nature. I took our motivators assessment, and friendship is the thing that pops up number one for me. I give my friendship quite freely. And if I had one bit of advice is, be a little careful with that. You do need to guard your reputation. There are people that will take advantage of you, and hopefully you can identify them fairly early. I've been burned a couple of times and just a couple of times, but for me, it was pretty traumatic because these were people I had given my trust and my friendship to. So,
sure.
I don't want to get too negative here, but there will be people that take advantage, and you've got to know when to kind of pull back and say, you know what, it's been great knowing you. We can't do business anymore.
And would you agree? Because one of the mistakes I see some folks sort of lean into is if it seems too good to be true, right? Ultimately, this takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of hard work, it takes a lot of perseverance, and it takes a lot of effort. And it's not a get-rich-quick business. And you got to be really good for a long period of time.
Yeah, no, we Adrian and I joke all the time. It took us 20 years to be an overnight success, and that happens because people just don't know your stuff, and you'll come out and you'll present and you'll have a great, and they go, "Wow, how did we not know about you?" Say, well, it's a big world, and there's a lot of books, and there's a lot of good people out there. So, yeah, to be really true, and be careful with your time, be careful with your relationships, and at the same time, be generous. 99 times out of 100, it's going to be fine, and you're going to benefit. It is a business. You do need to pay your bills, so you can't always do everything for free. I tell Christy, I go, look, I'll do one pro bono engagement a month, so 12 a year. And I find that works pretty well for me. I can fit that in my calendar. I can give up my time. I can make a difference, and yet I can still build my business.
That's fantastic. So a little bit of care and a lot of generosity. So I want to thank you and express my gratitude for you. There couldn't have been anybody better to launch our podcast today. Tell folks where they can get the book, get in touch with you, check out your site. Tell them where we can find you.
We always say find bookstores everywhere, right? Amazon, Barnes & Noble. We always have a presence in the airports. So if you travel a lot, check us out there. Thecultureworks.com is our website for our training. Thecarrotguys.com is where you go for speaking and so on. But I love to connect with people on LinkedIn. If you ever want to know anything about our business or what we're doing, we publish lots of articles. We're doing more and more videos and audios and podcasts, and that's a good place to reach us as well.
Well, best of luck with the book, and I thank you very much. I appreciate you, and I'm glad to have you on today.
A pleasure. You can call anytime, Peter. Take care, my friend.
Thank you. Bye. To learn more about Thought Leadership Leverage, please visit our website at thoughtleadershipleverage.com. To reach me directly, feel free to email me at peter@thoughtleadershipleverage.com. And please subscribe to Leveraging Thought Leadership on iTunes or your favorite podcast app to get your weekly episode automatically.